Well, I think Brandon Weeden deserves all Big 12 quarterback at this point. I'm not sure he'll win it.
I think if anybody's paying attention, he will, but that's the question. From the Opopka Studios in Oklahoma City, you're watching the Press Row. I'm Jenny Carlson. Barry, we find out a lot of times in these all-conference voting, sometimes people really aren't paying attention to the actual stats, the actual input. If you look at that, isn't Brandon Weeden the guy that should be the best in the Big 12?
Well, I think he's clearly the front runner right now, but all Big 12 quarterback has become a little bit of a political football. Who would have thought politics in the Big 12? But Weeden's a little bit caught in the middle. I don't know what kind of support he'll get from the Big 12 North, where I think Taylor Martinez, despite sitting out last week against Iowa State, I think he will get some support. He's played very well. He played great against Weeden head-to-head. When Martinez is out, Nebraska has struggled, so he's got a good case, but I don't know that Weeden will get a lot of support from the North, and I don't know if Weeden will get a lot of support from the Texas voters, because sometimes you have regionalization voting, provincial voting, and like I said, Oklahoma State sort of caught in the middle there. Down in Texas, I think Robert Griffin will still get some support, especially if he rallies from a poor game Saturday in Stillwater. So my advice to Brandon Weeden is keep playing well. I don't think this race is over.
Well, and I think if he's needing to keep playing well, I think he's gonna, because he's really had his best games lately, which he's been great all year statistically. If you even look back at the season opener, you saw big numbers from Brandon Weeden, but these last 2 weeks I think have been his best weeks. Statistically, he broke all sorts of records on Saturday against Baylor, and while that's impressive, I thought what he did the week before at K-State without Justin Blackman, figuring out a way to keep those guys calm after a rocky start to begin that game. It was everybody from receivers to running backs to Weeden himself playing without Blackman and that safety blanket that he gives them. Weeden really kept that offense under control. They finally got on the board, and then they pulled away from K-State. They showed they were the better team. I think that was a really impressive performance, and then he follows it up with the huge game Saturday against Baylor. I think the video game statistics are going to continue for Brandon Weeden.
Well, they certainly should. He's got a couple of games at Kansas next week. That should just be name your score. Now, if he plays well at Texas, it gets Oklahoma State off the losing streak against the Longhorns, I think that will really help his candidacy. I think Brandon Weeden could go into Bedlam not already having all Big 12 sewed up. However, with a poor performance or a loss at Austin, I think it opens it back up to everyone. So this is a race that could go down to the finish.
Yeah, I think it could. And, you talk about Taylor Martinez, and there's no doubt he's going to get his share of votes. But to me, when you've got a guy that's getting replaced in games that aren't blowouts. I mean, we've seen Taylor Martinez twice go to the bench this season, and not be in games that were close, tight games because his coaches felt like their backups gave him a better opportunity to win. To me, if you're not good enough to play in those tight games, should you really be considered all Big 12 quarterback material? There's no doubt he's fantastic. He gives you a different element with, especially with his feet, his elusiveness, creates such pressure on a defense. But that passing performance we saw him have against Oklahoma State, we may never see that again from Taylor Martinez. It still remains to be seen. But I think if you take into account the whole year and how consistent Brandon Weeden has been, I think he's a guy that's going to get some strong consideration from all over the Big 12, and it may break a long, long dry spell for the Cowboys in all conference quarterback. Hey, stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.